What's up, guys? I'm gonna come back to streaming. Um, Recently I tried to move up to center limit on ACR, and for some reason I cannot win on ACR with tender limit. So I decided to take my roll off ACR and you know go into ignition and try to see if I can build up my roll on ignition, because at the end of the day, part of being a good player is finding softer sites, right? So I don't want to be in a site where it's just harder to make money. Even with Rayback, even with the Beast, I just I lose, and I don't feel like I feel like there's something fishy going on. For example, if you look at my other sites, for example, Cuba Poker and Bet Online, when I first started on Bet Online, I played 10 no limit over 100K hands. I've won 1,059, meaning I could have moved up to 25 no limit easily, right? I cashed out once, setup started happening, started losing too much, in spots where it was very weird, and I decided, hey, listen, I don't feel comfortable on this side. I'm gonna take my roll. I go on to an AC. Let's leave ACR for at the end. I also I've also played on ignition, right? Just a bit, but I played on ignition. 28,000 hands, beating 10 no limit at ABBs per 100. I'm up 27 buy-ins. I mean, 27,000 hands is not that much of a sample, but it's still good enough sample to know that you're winning or losing, right? That's in 10 no limit. I've won in final. I think final limit I only played 3K hands and I was down. I had a downswing because variance is fine. Bad beats are fine. You're gonna have bad days. You're gonna lose. That's perfectly fine. I just feel like, say for example here I'm losing, but overall on all the stakes, I'm up $200 in ignition. I haven't played too much. I've only played 32,000 hands. Now on ACR, so we established that at least a break-even player. At least I win overall, right? On ACR, on 5 no limit, I played 60K hands. I'm betting the stake 4 BBs over 100. I play too aggressively. You know I I don't play as tight as I should be, but it's fine. I'm still beating it over 59,000 hands. I play 2 no limit, 6 mass, and keep in mind these players are all the same. 5 no limit, 2 no limit, 10 no limit. There's no difference. They're all the same to me. They all play bad. There's bad players there. There's plenty of money to be made. In 10 no limit, 6 max, over 112,000 hands. I've been in this stake at ABBs over 100. I've made $200. So you can tell, like, you have solid stats. If you look at my stats over 300,000 hands, this stats right here over 300,000 hands. Those are solid stats. Those are balanced stats. Those at best is break even. At best. But for some reason, every time I move up to 10 limit on ACR, it's not just run bad, it's not just variance. It's like setups and setups after setups after setups after setups. And I played in 10 limit 6 max in regular tables. I played 100,000 hands and I'm down 38 binds. I've looked over these hands plenty of times. Yes, there are some where I get it in jacks versus queens, queens versus aces, bottom versus small blind, standard spots, variance. I play this game for 6 years now. I've played millions of hands. I've won many tournaments. I understand variance. I understand all of this. There's so many spots that I go over the spots and it's just set up where I have to put my money in. Like there's no you'll be an idiot if you fold. Like you have to get the money in. And it's just I'm always end up with the second best hand. So I tried soon, same thing. Over 43,000 hands, I'm down 26 buying. So over 150,000 hands, that's a huge sample, right? having solid stats, solid play, playing well, right? Yes, sometimes I get tilted, sometimes I punt off stacks. It's normal. It's part of, I'm a human being. It's part of the game. But over 100,000 hands, that's a huge sample. I'm down 260 here and 37, 378. That's like I'm down like 60 binds. So basically, 10 no limit is full of poker gods. They're the best players in the world, and I'm running like the worst, right? So there's something going on here. I've gone over all these hands many times. There's setup after setup after setup after setup where I, all my top sets lose against straights, which is fine. That's part of the game. You know, sometimes you're gonna hit the two outers, but all the time. And keep in mind, every time I stack somebody, it's another wreck. Right? It's another wreck that threw me with aces, and I call with 6-5 suit or some shit, and I got two paired, and I stack this guy. Right? And every time I get it all in versus some bad player, they always get the run out. They always, let's say they go all in with four dudes off, and I call with aces, which I have to call obviously pre-flop, and they get straight or two pair, or if I four bet big and they call with ace five, 8-5 off, they get two pair and I get stacked versus really bad players, and it just has happened so consistently that I just feel like either one I have to get out of the site because I want to move up. I don't want to stay in final limit and 10 limit. And two, like maybe there's something going on. There's something fishy going on. I already gave my theory to some of my friends, and they think I'm crazy. But listen, man, I once you play so much and you have so much experience, you have to like you have to realize that some of these cards, the way they're set up, is just not right. It's just not right. Not all the time like that. So I decided to get my rule out of ACR. I'm done with ACR. If I feel like there's something fishy going on with ACR and Bet Online, I have to get out of there. They're not that tough. They are the same players. There are some good players in 10 limit. Because one of my friends told me, why? So how come some of these people move up from 10 limit to they don't? There's some good ass players in 10 limit that I've seen them playing 2+ years, 1+ year. This the way they play, their stats, the way they play that I've seen, and the stats that I have 4K hands over them, like good recs. The way they play with the beast and breakback, they should have moved up to 25 no limit a long time ago. And I see these people moving down to 5 no limit and going back to 10 no limit, moving because they're experiencing the same shit I'm experiencing. They're just break even or losing, even though they're really good players. And so, from my experience, where I've seen the RNG not look as fishy, is Ignition. I've always won tournaments on Ignition. Yes, I've run bad. I've had bad beats. Just like normal poker, normal percentages, but not at the level that I see on ACR and Bet Online after you cash out or etc. So, I mean, I don't have a clue what's going on. I don't care. It could be bots. It could be colluding. It could be whatever. I just don't feel comfortable playing on ACR anymore. So I decided to move to Ignition. And I'm gonna see over 100,000 hands the difference between Ignition and ACR. And keep in mind, I believe that ACR is easy, is soft. The players there are not that great. Even the Rex, they're not that good. They're just as good as me or worst. I see their play and they get it in bad all the time. I think it's soft, but it's just setup after setup after setup after setup. Last 2 weeks, I've had to go all in with kings versus aces 7 times, 7 or 8 times. Not once did I hit a set, nothing. And then I go all in with aces and I hit, and people get sets. Yes, the same complaint that everyone has, and they're, oh, you're just a dog, you don't see the variance. But I play millions of hands. I used to play on Carbon Poker, and this never happened. On Carbon Poker, this never happened. That was a great site. Unfortunately, it died off, and ACR took over. But to think that ACR couldn't possibly do some scummy shit, come on, man. Like you have to be wary. These people are not regulated. They don't even though they cater to U.S. players, they're based on Costa Rica, bro. once poker is regulated in the United States, they're gonna forget about ACR. ACR is it's gonna be gone because people are gonna play in poker stars. They're gonna play in better websites in GG Network. They're not gonna give a fuck about ACR. So these people are trying to make as much money as possible. So I don't think it's happening in the higher limits. I think it's something going on in the micros. And if you look at the rake, look how much rake 327 here and how much here and $800. So I paid $1,400 in rake for basically a month of grinding because there's only like 150,000 hands. There's almost like a month and a half of grinding. Imagine 30, 40 players just in 10 no limit a month. That's like 30K, 35K a month, right? That's just 10 no limit. Imagine 25 and 15 no limit, the rate that they're paying, right? So imagine they're just break even and they can't even cash out because they're trying to move up, right? So they're just break even. That's millions of dollars a year on microstakes. So to say, oh, why would they do this for the rig is not that much? The rig is a lot. It amounts to a lot of money in the micro. So that's not a true like that's like that's not a true defense into it. Like they really do can make millions of dollars a year just by getting rate from the micros from 25, 15 no limit easily. So I have my suspicions on ACR. I think there's something's coming going on in the micros. I think it's fine. Like 100 no limit plus, I think it's fine. The problem is in the micros. So if I have a suspicion and I don't feel comfortable, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna waste my time, right? Because I need to move up. So I need to get to 25 no limit as fast as possible. So I'd rather just play 4 tables. So I'm gonna play 4 tables on ignition now, and I'm gonna play in his plane. And then on my off time, I think I have like $100 on ACR, and I just try to move up with two no limit just for fun because I like to play a bunch of tables, right? So that's an issue. On ignition, I can only play 4 tables, and that's why and it's anonymous, so that's why I've avoided ignition for a while. But at the end of the day, we're in the business of making money. So I need to make money. I need to move up. I'm tired of playing the micros. Maybe I come back to ACR once I have the rule for 100 no limit or 200 no limit plus. But for now, I mean, the stats are obvious. I cannot beat 10 no limit on ACR. I'm playing against the poker gods. The best pokers in the world in 10 are in 10 no limit on ACR. So I could be a dunk, but I I've won money. I'm a winning. At best, I'm a break even player. And over 150K hands, I cannot accept that I've lost 60 buy-ins. I cannot accept that. And so I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna play on ignition. Um, and on ACR, I'll still play on ACR, but I will play just two no limit and final limit, which is where I've getting profit here and there. I'm just to like stay in touch with the software, like keep like practicing like a bunch of tables because at the end of the day, I love playing a bunch of tables. I love using hotkeys, etc. So ignition is gonna be boring in that aspect. I'm only gonna be able to play 4 tables. It's gonna be versus unknown for a while, so I have to like play balanced until I see otherwise, and that could get me in trouble here and there. But I feel confident that I can make a profit in ignition and move up. And so that's what I'll do, and I'll keep studying. I'll try to get better, and I cannot beat 10 limit, so I'm gonna move. I'm gonna move from that side. That's all.